Welcome to the Raising Global Leaders series. I'm so excited today to bring to you Barbara A. Lewis. She's a phenomenal speaker. She's an amazing author, and she's an educator. She's written 8 books in over 14 languages. We have a wealth of knowledge and wisdom here with us today, so I'm just so honored. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you, Leanna. Nice to be here with you.
Awesome. So you have an interesting educational experience. So you actually skipped kindergarten, and that's thanks to your sister. Can you share that story with us?
Well, that's a really choice one. I came from Scandinavian parents who really believe in allowing their children to grow and develop without a lot of hindrance. And I went to kindergarten and said, I don't want to go, Mom. Pardon me, I'm recovering from a cold. And I cried, I suppose. And finally, my mother was very kind and understanding. She said, well, you don't need to go to kindergarten. So I didn't. But what people didn't know, that I'm sure the teachers and the superintendent and everyone thought this was just a horrible, choice, that I would become very retarded in the first grade, or I'd have to start kindergarten a year late. But what they didn't know is I had an exceptional teacher. I was in the basement of our house. I sat among all the dolls and the stuffed animals, while my sister, who was 4 years older, was the teacher and asked all the questions. She taught me to read. She taught me to read and recognize vowels and how you attack a word, which they weren't doing then. In those days, they were doing sight reading, so you would just memorize the words. But I learned how to attack words. I went back to school, and they were absolutely astounded. And the funny thing is, and I did not have to go to kindergarten. They asked my sister, who was 4 years older, probably in 5th grade, they had her come into faculty meeting and demonstrate to the teachers how she taught me to read. So that is a good story. There's more than one way to learn in school.
Yes, that's awesome. I love that you guys were just being kids, and through that you were able to just learn so much. That's
I
amazing.
had to answer all the questions. She gave all the questions. I had to learn.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how do you think this affected your decision to go into education yourself?
I don't know if that did, except my sister and I had very creative personalities and drew paper dolls they don't even do that nowadays much, but little paper doll characters, created an entire high school. We were keeping their journals. I think I learned to write doing that, not knowing, making up these dramatic stories with all these kids as we were growing older. I think that's really what got my interest in writing, but it had to be combined with teaching. So
That's amazing. Yeah, we don't really see paper dolls very often now. They have some that are more artisan, but
yeah,
not really in a way that encourages that type of
and we drew
imagination.
them. We drew a whole entire high school. I did all the girls, she did all the boys.
That's incredible. So in your books, you talk a lot about initiative. You talk a lot about social change. You even have a story where you were in a pretty rough neighborhood and you actually empowered the students to take back their community rather than encouraging the adults to do it. So why do you think it's important to get students and children involved in social service in that way?
I think it's important because I'll tell you the great lesson I learned. I learned that as kids reach out to solve problems, as kids reach out to help the community, to help others, the whole process rolls backwards to them, and they learn how to control their own lives. We're not teaching them, oh, this is how you do this, this, and this, and giving them instruction. They learn it through experience. So I was in a very wonderful school on the west side of Salt Lake, and had a principal who was very supportive and teachers who hung in there. It was new. I had the academically talented kids in 4th, 5th, and 6th grades at separate times. And so I could take the regular curriculum. We were learning about groundwater.
Mm-hmm.
I thought to myself, this is before all of this whole, community volunteerism thing really got blossomed. I mean, it was heard of and it was done, but not to a great extent. But I thought, now, what has this got to do with real life? Here we are in the four walls of this school. Why are we teaching them these things? What has groundwater got to do with real life? I brought in a wall map of the community and put it on the wall, on the board. Now, later, as I learned to do this better, I would have had the children go to the health department or to the mayor, wherever we got it, and put it on the wall. But I was just learning. And they plotted out hazardous waste sites. We got the list from the Department of Hazardous Waste, and they found one 3 blocks from their school. Well, that was electric. Suddenly, education just exploded. The kids ran to the board. They were looking at it and saying, I've ridden my bike through there. It was a barrel recycling plant, which had stockpiled, I think it was around 50,000 barrels containing everything from molasses to dioxin and hazardous chemicals. It was just, I won't give you all the details. You don't want to push that button. I'll go on for a half an hour. But it was really exciting for me to see that as they experimented on how they were going to resolve this problem, their language arts came into play. They learned how to speak, write, contact people. Their science came into play, great research. In those days, they had to read things like Newsweek and Scientific American to find out about these kinds of issues in the environment. And all across the curriculum, they developed skills, and their confidence was just amazing when they're up there lobbying the legislators. And I mean, just amazing experiences. So that's where the connection came to me with my desire to write. And I was keeping those little slots in my box at the bottom in little manila folders, comments from kids, letters written to legislators, telephone calls. And I started thinking, oh my goodness, that gave birth to my first book, which was The Kid's Guide to Social Action. And unfortunately, right now, it's a long time ago. It's only available in ebook anymore. It's gone out of print. But that's how it started. And you're probably more interested into the character education type parts, the books that I wrote later.
Yes, I was actually just about to ask you, how can we, I know you write a lot towards educators. Well, you wrote a book about educating teachers who are teaching gifted children,
Yes.
But how can we as parents of gifted children or parents of children that aren't gifted, how can we—
all kids have gifts.
Awesome, that's how I feel too. So how can we start to do these kinds of things in our own community and in our family? Like, where do we start?
How would you do it as a parent? Well, how old are your children, Leanna? Do you have children?
I do. I have 3 and 1 on the way.
Oh, beautiful.
So my children are 7, 6, 2, and in vitro.
Okay. All right. So when you start with a 7, 6, and 2, okay, so go clear back to the 2-year-old. It begins very, very young, and it's mostly by example. So if you're trying to develop skills and confidence, number one, I think we have to accept their feelings. Mm-hmm. So when they say, I hate you, you hug them and say, oh, that's okay. I love you enough for both of us. I mean, it takes the wind right out of their sails. It doesn't mean we can't discipline. We should. We should, and that's a mistake. It's sometimes in our country today that we overly privilege children and don't want to hurt their little psyches. But in reality, they need to know there are boundaries. But suppose you have a child, you want her to learn to be kind. She comes to you one day into your room and says, Mommy, your 2-year-old, I make your bed, or however she would say it. And you think, okay, you go into your bedroom, and it looks like she's taken an egg beater to the bed. Now, hopefully no one would say, oh, you think that's making a bed? No, hopefully no one would be that obtuse. But you look at it and you say, oh, now you're teaching her the language. Oh, honey, that is so kind. There's the word kindness. Mm-hmm. And so caring. That is the sweetest gift. And you say, thank you. And then you say, if you want to demonstrate what a bed making skill is, you can leave it where you have it, but don't touch the bed for the rest of the day. Don't touch it. Leave her gift as it is. Then say, do you know what I do when someone does something kind to me? And she goes, huh? You know, I do something kind for them. So you take her by the hand, go into her room, and you can make her bed. You don't say, this is how you do it. You just let her watch, and you make the bed, and she might learn, oh yeah, I can see that. I mean, she'll pick up something, and you say, so that's what we do when we're kind to each other. That was so sweet. And then you go off and do something else. So with a very young child, they get a little older, you can even, if you're trying to develop, you're talking about global leaders, a 2-year-old's not a global leader, but she has a chance to make an impact in her family.
Right.
So then you go to your 6 and 7-year-olds, and there it's a little more sophisticated. They're still young and sweet, and you can still do the same kinds of tactics by demonstrating without criticizing. And they'll learn it. It's amazing what they learn by watching. And sometimes we have to give instruction. Obviously, they're going to school. You can't just demonstrate math and have them pick it up. You've got to help them, facilitate. But so that you want them, suppose you want them to start looking into the community and a more feeling that life goes on beyond the bedroom or the house or the school. So you can do it in many multiple ways. You can be watching television, even cartoons with them. And as a parent, you can look and think, what does this bring up? Well, those guys in this cartoon are punching each other out. And you can say, what do you think about that? And then begin asking them questions. Does that happen at school? You're calling it, there are bullies. What do you do when that happens? How can you handle it? What works? What doesn't work? You begin questioning, so they're thinking. So you're not saying, this is what you do when a bully comes.
Yeah.
You start getting them talking about it, and then you say, what could you do to make a difference? What would make? You slowly get them to think that there is something I can do. They stop being pawns that are moved around the board by their teachers or their parents, and start being people who say, I can make life happen. I don't have to have it happen to me. I can be the instigator. So there are just all kinds of common good, common sense things done with love and understanding, but firmness too.
Right.
So I don't know if that helps, but there are a couple of little ideas.
Absolutely. I mean, that helps tremendously. I love the idea about making the bed, because that's actually my 2-year-old's favorite thing to do in the morning, is to help me make my bed.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
so that's amazing that you use that example. So I love how you always focus on building character over the expected results. I feel like as parents today, we are so results driven. We want to take pictures and post it on social media and say, look what my kid did. Yeah, everything's perfect. They're amazing. And we focus, it seems, a lot more on the results than the character building. And so I love that your books focus on building the character and really building the person from the inside out, not creating kids that do things just for praise and acknowledgement, but kids that do things because they want to see change. They want to make an impact. They want to be kind. They want to give back and be intentional. So you wrote a book called Building Character with True Stories from Nature. How do you feel nature impacts character development in our future leaders?
You know, nature's out there. It's around us. All you have to do is walk outside. You can look at the sky and see examples. Now, the thing that people, if they use that book, that way of helping to develop character traits, it doesn't mean that the sky is the same as a kindness. But you find when you do metaphors, you identify what the connection is, and that causes a connection within the brains. It develops the brain to stretch them and seeing connections. So how am I like a rock? Someone just told me I was a rock. Am I a big lump of minerals? And then you think, no. You think, how is the connection? Why? I'm solid. I'm doing a good job. So you see it that way. And children love stories from nature. I was taking a place for a teacher the other day in Park City School District. And so I told them a few stories. So they didn't know me. I came in, I told them stories. They were captive. I can tell you another time when I went back to teaching after taking a hiatus raising children. Pardon me. I went into a sixth grade class, the last 6 weeks of school. You can imagine, in the afternoon when kids
Oh,
are wild, and taking over for that afternoon teacher. It was, the first thing I did, I walk in. The morning teacher didn't have a whole lot of discipline. They'd come back in from eating lunch, and there were spitballs falling from the ceiling. I'm not kidding. And kids crawling on the desks. It was like utter chaos. And I thought, what do I do? Do I scream? Do I shout? Do I bang a book down? Do I cry? And I thought, I'll bang a book down. I banged the book down and got their sudden attention. They were startled. And in that split 2 seconds, I had just that long to capture them before they fractured again. Let me tell you a true story that'll knock you out. And I told them about a little girl that, in Jackson, where I had taught before at Jackson Elementary or whatever, and told them she was out on this is probably not the story I used, but it's one that comes to my mind right now. I know I told them a story. She was out on her front yard eating a popsicle, a fourth grader, when a car drove by and shot bullets at her house. She fell to the dirt, crawled into the house, and warned her mother to get down. Do you think they were captive? They were breathless.
yeah.
It ended up in a discussion of what can children do to help to make their neighborhoods safer. It was awesome. And from then on, it was, just that one story. So you talk about stories from nature. Children love stories about, they love stories about animals, particularly. You tell them a story of the man who lived among the wolves. Boy, they're right with you. You tell a story about Lulu the pig that saved her owner's life. It leads to discussions. So what has Lulu shown? What kind of qualities did she have, this pig, that you can compare to a human? We're not pigs, I hope not. Although, have you looked in your bedroom lately? No, I'm kidding. So then they say, and I did this the other day going into the classroom I went into and told them about Lulu. They raised their hand. She showed courage. She was brave. She cared. They came up with all the character trait things that you can tie to it. It doesn't mean they are pigs or that we are similar, nor does it mean that a cloud that has a thunderstorm developing has a personality, is really an angry cloud. But it shows us a comparison, a metaphor, and it stretches that in their brains and develops that. Right. So stories are powerful. Especially about real people, about real kids. So they like hearing about Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and Harriet Beecher Stowe and all those, but they lived a long time ago. They love hearing about Georgette that got shot at.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Engaging them and bringing them in by allowing them to visually see in their minds what you're talking about. That's incredible. So, what do you think is the most important character trait we should be developing in our kids now so that they can become leaders tomorrow?
This is a difficult question, but I've thought of this myself many times. I almost want to say, first of all, I said integrity because that encompasses a lot, but I changed it to courage because courage is like the fulcrum of the wheel. And all the other character traits, connect to it. So you have to have the courage to speak up and be assertive. You have to have the courage to be honest. You have to have the courage to be kind, maybe to someone you don't like. You have to have the courage to be restrained.
Oh, yeah.
Have the courage to be creative. It goes on. So I've changed it now to courage, but integrity is also a really just the connects with all things. You have to have integrity in whatever we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that courage. So can you give us some strategies using what you talk about? You talk about what do you stand for kids, and you also have what do you stand for teens. Mm-hmm. So can you share with us some different strategies that we can use to encourage the development of courage and ultimately integrity in our kids.
Now, again, we're talking about whether we're talking about the teenagers or the young kids, so the strategies are a little different. But since you're dealing with even one coming into life soon, I think it's to not make fun of anything they do. From the home front, in a teacher's classroom, it's a little different. We do activities and things, and you can do those. Those books are written for parents too, by the way. You can do these things on your own. Homeschooling can be awesome, as was my kindergarten. But for example, you begin with accepting their feelings, as I mentioned, the one who's afraid, the one who's angry, but also showing containment. I think this is the grassroots. This is where it starts. And showing unconditional love. Unconditional love means that you keep them from doing things they shouldn't do. When they're younger, we have to keep reins around them. They won't be safe. We can't stand and watch a little baby crawl into a fire and think, oh, she'll learn it's hot.
Right.
Remove them from the fire. As and then as they get older, it develops. From a mother's point of view, it's a really ironic thing because we're protecting them totally when they're born. Right now, your baby, an embryo, is being totally protected. Yeah. Then as they grow out, it's knowing when to remove some boundaries, to let them think and learn. I think when they talk to us, we get down on their level and look at them and listen. That's huge. And then ask questions. Really, do you feel that way? That's so interesting. I felt just like that when I was your age, and I still do. And they said, what can we do about it? Again, you turn it back instead of being defensive. And if they're being obnoxious, pick them up and remove them when they're young, shut the door, whatever you disciplinary tactic you use that's kind, and don't put up with it. But you say, oh, you're ready to talk? Oh, I'd really like to hear, because I could see you were really upset, but I don't understand what you were upset over. Oh, I see. I felt like that too. So what can we do about it? Yeah. And then another thing, as you're trying to develop them, you can do fun little tricks like have a jar around the house, an old Crisco jar, if you use those horrible things, or anything where the kids can put something into the jar. And the little tiny ones won't be able to write it, but you can write it for them and make it a secret so the other kids don't know. No, looking for kind acts, helpful acts, problem-solving acts, where you solved it, where they were arguing and you're teaching them. So you take that, and then once a week or once a day, whenever you want to, you pull one out and read it to them. The older children could probably read it. It's complimenting someone in the family. That's a nice reinforcement. You can make yourself a little silly weather pane thing on the wall and hang it up that says the weather, speaking of nature, hurricane, stormy, bad, on down, clear around to calm and happy and sunny, and have poke a little needle through and put it around to let the kids know what's going on. Reward them when they're good. Yeah. I think this is a go to the store and get a Slurpee day. That kind of thing. Or I've got time. You've helped me so much by letting me work and helping me that now we can sit down and play. Look, it's on calm. We can play a game. Whatever you want to do that works in your family, reward them for good behavior. I read something once that absolutely shocked me. It said that something like 90% of the interaction between parents and children is negative. It's correct. So we have to change that little thing down to 90% positive, and then restraining the rest. And that they really, really respond. They really do. Yeah. And with your wonderful smile, Leanne, I can tell your kids are really lucky. They've got a cheerful mother.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love what you said about communicating with them. Sometimes, with the time that we're in right now with technology, it's hard to put down your phone or put aside your computer to really give undivided attention while you're talking to your little ones. So I think that that's really an important point that you brought up, is actually engaging in conversation with your little ones.
That helps their social emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
that puts it right online. You're developing them socially and emotionally, and those are the skills they need when they get older to become global leaders or neighborhood leaders or just good leaders in their family.
Yeah.
You know, it's there that we talk about all the regular skills that you learn in school, but developing socially and emotionally will probably pave their way to success far more. They need the others. I'm not downplaying it, but you can't ignore the other.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know about anybody else who's watching, but the James family is definitely going to implement the jar. I think that that's an incredible idea, writing compliments about somebody and putting them in the jar and then picking one a day. I know that my kids would absolutely love that. They love it when my husband comes home and he just showers them with compliments about their schoolwork or how they look or what they're doing at the moment. And so having that jar and that secret like surprise, I think is very incredible. So thank you for that idea. We are going to do it.
Good deal.
Okay, so um, can you tell me what you're working on right now? So you have all these books. What was your most recent book? I think it was What Do You Stand for Teens? Was that your most
Well,
recent?
I think the most recent one was Building Character with True Stories from Nature.
Oh, okay,
And
yes.
then I stopped writing for a while because I wanted to do other things. I thought I've written my last book, done. I've actually written 10. You're probably only aware of 8 of them. But I kept waking up in the morning with these great ideas, and I thought, okay, I've got another one there. I don't talk about books before they're accepted, but this one I think would be awesome. And then I'm working on another one that I pulled out of the dustbin. That was a fictional book that I've worked on off and on during the years, which I'd like to bring to life. So I'm actually working on 2 now when I thought I would never do another. Plus, I'm working on an overall journal with pictures of my life for our family. Now that's probably
Oh, wow.
impact for our family, the most important thing I could do, although they'll probably be bored and not want to read it.
Well, I think that's an incredible legacy to leave. I mean, it may seem like they'll be bored, but trust me, somebody will love and appreciate it very much. My younger sister is actually um, deeply involved in researching our family history right now. So,
Nice, nice. Isn't that
yes,
exciting?
it's very
That's fun
exciting.
investigation. It's really great.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so where can we find you? What's your website? How can we find where you're speaking and what you're into so that we can stay connected?
Okay, the first place I would suggest is actually my publisher, Free Spirit Publishing. That's just the way it sounds, freespiritpublishing.com. And they have also other books that are just absolutely astounding. They're a book publisher with integrity. And also I have a website at www.barbaraalewis.com. So there's a double A in the middle. Barbara ends in A, barbaraalewis.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I am so excited to have had the opportunity to interview you today. I thank you for your wisdom and for your knowledge, for your years of experience and sharing it with parents like me who are new parents of little ones. And also some of our seasoned parents, I know that they will be able to get a lot out of this as well. So I will make sure that there's a link that you can click where you can get access right to Barbara's site and you can order her books for yourself. All right, Barbara, thank you.
Thank you. Nice, Brianna. Okay,
Okay.
now, Leanna,
Yes.
what was I going to say? Let's see. When they go to freespirit.com, then they have to go where it says authors and put my name in. So,
Okay.
and that's how they'll find it, and then they'll find books. But on my website, but I don't sell them off my website. I just don't want to get into selling.
Okay. Well, I'll put the link when I put the link on the video. I'll put the your whole author page, so it'll be freespiritpublishing.com
Oh,
slash.
to the author,
Yeah.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. You're wonderful. You have the most amazing smile.
Oh, thank you. It's so funny
Look,
because
your kids are so lucky. Anyone that's doing something like this, and I mean, this is just awesome. Now, did I miss your website? Do you have one?
I do, and I'm actually gonna send it out to you. I realized too that I didn't send you a contract. I meant to send that. I had it scheduled to go out before the original date, and I was like, oh, this morning. But it just basically says that I can use this to send out to people, and that if your computer breaks while you're trying to log on, that you won't sue me.
Well, that's a good one. You probably have to be safe with that nowadays.
I do. I don't think that anybody that I'm interviewing would do that, but you know, they're like, just to be safe. Like,
Okay, well, I signed it. Here it is, virtual.
but yeah, so
You are awesome.
thank you, and enjoy your grandson's performance. Is he playing an instrument or what's he doing?
Actually, this time it's a high-tech soccer game. There are three of them.
Wow,
From grandkids. They're all pretty young, but I mean, so I just don't miss them, Leanna. I just don't miss them.
that's
They've
awesome.
had musical ones. They've had other, but I go to everything they do.
Yeah,
Put that first.
that's how my parents are too, and I think that's amazing. That type of relationship, and I had that relationship with my grandparents, and actually right now both my grandmothers have Alzheimer's, and so those moments that I had with them growing up are even more precious. And my husband and I are both very generous with giving those moments to our parents so that they can, have that. Because you never know what's going to happen.
I don't.
You know, we couldn't have planned for
Family
this.
is really special. Family is really, that's just really the trunk.
Yeah.
You've got to have the family behind you and loving you. Then they can explore and do what they need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well, I appreciate you. And I will get a copy of this out to you once I have it all edited and completed.
All right. Thank you, Leanna. Appreciate it very much.
No problem. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.